Hello, you're watching Talking Europe. It was described as an unhappy marriage and it ended in June. The four-party government in the Netherlands collapsed when far-right leader Geert Wilders pulled his PVV party out of the coalition, citing his partner's inaction on migration and asylum issues. Well, that breakdown led to snap elections being called, which are due to take place on October the 29th. Between the personalities and personal rivalries, the issues in the Dutch election are actually very important because they reflect some of the big political battles happening across the EU. And to delve into those, we welcome two Dutch MEPs today. Reinier van Lanschot is from the Volt Party, which sits with the group of the Greens here in the European Parliament. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
And also with me here, Sander Schmidt from the Farmer Citizen Movement, or BBB as it's abbreviated to. And that party was actually part of the outgoing government in the Netherlands. And he's a member of the European People's Party here in the European Parliament. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you for having me.
Sander, so I was wondering, as your party was in this coalition, which was such a roller coaster, wasn't it, for a year, what was it actually like for your party there?
I think we as BBB proved that we, hailing from rural realism, were a constructive factor in this coalition. We went to work. We're still at work, even in the caretaker government. So in that sense, for our party, it's not been as much of a roller coaster maybe as for other parties. We're still at work. I think my party delivered on a lot of promises, maybe even these last weeks. If we look at how we're solving the nitrogen impasse, which led to huge farmer protests years ago in the Netherlands over many years, I think we're at the brink of a breakthrough if other parties support this solution. And also on asylum, our Vice Prime Minister is now delivering upon the toughest asylum laws upcoming, just waiting to be approved by the Senate. And I think there we're clearly delivering. We're working constructively, but obviously it's been a period of turmoil for many other parties.
For sure. You've raised some important issues there, the nitrogen crisis, the nitrogen pollution and asylum and migration. But I just want to get Reinier's reaction on what you heard about this outgoing coalition delivering for people. What did you think of that?
I have a completely different understanding of what has happened. I would say that even on the points that Mr. Smith just mentioned, nothing has been delivered. I think if you look at this past government, it has been the worst government we've ever had since the Second World War. And it's time for something completely new. This government did not respect the rule of law and all the time was just fighting internally. It was the first time that the far-right party joined the government in about a decade, and it proved that that brings chaos, not only because the ideas are sometimes bad or unachievable or against democracy or against the rule of law, but also because the people trying to implement those ideas were incapable of executing them and doing the political work that I think is needed to bring ideas to a next level and bring a positive wave. So I'm super happy that we have snap elections because this is a new opportunity to bring a progressive, pro-European force into government in the Netherlands.
Sander Schmidt, do you think that the image of the Netherlands was perhaps badly affected by all this infighting that your colleague is talking about on the European stage, perhaps?
Obviously, it would have been better if we had been all united, also from a European perspective. But I think that the Netherlands, also on the EU stage, has proven very constructive, to be a constructive factor in coming up with new, tougher asylum legislation, even in the by the new European Commission. Netherlands were at the forefront with Italy, along with Italy, to have this safe third countries list, to externalize asylum and migration procedures outside of the borders of the European Union, to have return hubs. So I think here the Netherlands have really proven to be a factor of influence still in the European Union. So I don't totally agree agree that this affected our reputation on an EU level. Obviously, now with the caretaker government, politically, other member states are looking towards the outcome of the elections. But as I said, my party, the Farmer Citizen Movement, is trying to deliver even in the caretaker government.
So you mentioned, we'll get onto the asylum question then, because just to explain for our viewers, so there's already a deal, of course, between Italy and Albania, and the Netherlands deal with Uganda is the second of its kind, and this is about sending migrants to Uganda. Reinier van Lanschot, what do you make of that?
Uganda is a country with the death penalty for homosexuality. Do I need to say more? We're going to really send people that way? I have been to Albania. I've been to the outsourced asylum center that Italy has created there. It's a prison. Is that really the best that we can deliver as Europe, as the Netherlands? We can do so much better. I think our asylum system will have a massive change because Europe created a new asylum pact already. And it's typical for the Netherlands, actually, that even though the Dutch society is very pro-European and open-minded and thinks and acts across borders, the politicians only look internally. So they're often discussing new asylum regulations that are going to be irrelevant because we already have this European asylum pact that's coming into force next year. I would also like to quickly respond to what was said earlier by Mr. Smit about the role of the Netherlands in the EU. So we're one of the founders of the European Union. We've historically been a constructive player, but it was the Farmers' Party of Mr. Smith that said, we will go to Europe and then we will slam our fist on the table to demand new nitrogen rules. And it turned out that slamming your fist on the table does not lead to anything because you achieve more in Europe if you are constructive. I do have to give one compliment to the previous Dutch government, and that is that they held up the support for Ukraine, because that's one of the most important things. And I think that the next Dutch government should continue doing that.
Let's talk a bit about the nitrogen question, though. I think that's very important. So what's the state of play now, and what do you want to do next on reducing nitrogen pollution? Because I think the Netherlands, according to the Environment Agency of the EU, is one of the most problematic countries on this in the EU.
I think it depends on the perspective, from which perspective you look at it. There are many other regions which have the same challenges, but not the same legal crisis as existed in the Netherlands for a few years. So we really need to work towards a solution, and our minister of the BBB has come up with a new threshold to increase the threshold and to bring our nitrogen policy in national nature law into line with the implementation of the Habitats Directive, as is usual among EU member states. And still it's a factor 100 lower than the German threshold for nitrogen deposition. So I really think we're working on that and we're delivering on that despite massive actions, also political opposition in Parliament against these solutions, because this absurd nitrogen micromanagement legislation which existed in the Netherlands really it serves no purpose. Not nature, doesn't serve nature nor economy. And I think even Mr. van Lanschot has to agree with me that we need to build houses, we need to move on, we got to get our economy going, including our farmers. And there's a lot of farmers in legal uncertainty. And Mr. van Lanschot made a remark on rule of law. I think as a government and as authorities, we need to provide legal certainty to not only citizens, but also to farmers in our member states, and not create a situation of uncertainty and chaos which existed for many years before this government took office. And I think 14 months are too short of a period to deliver on all promises in the coalition agreement. And my party, of course, would have liked to work on these solutions for 4 full years, also on a European level, also on constructively working on the Asylum and Migration Pact, but also national measures, because each EU member state has national measures, and Austria deported illegal Afghans back to Afghanistan. Austria with a centrist coalition government. So, and I think that the Netherlands could learn from that, also a future government.
Can we just stay perhaps on the question of farmers and certainty for farmers?
Yes, I do want to stay on that, but I want to mention one thing though that is off topic, and then I'll answer it.
Okay, sure.
And that is that the level of trust in politics after these 2 years in the Netherlands right now is 4%. This has been a political disaster, this coalition, and I'm happy to hear that Mr. Smith is saying that they delivered, but that's just not the case. And if we look at nitrogen and the farmers, the nitrogen rules are there to protect biodiversity, and the nitrogen in the Netherlands is so high that the biodiversity now suffers, and because of that the judges say you cannot emit more nitrogen, and for that reason we cannot build houses, for example. So I completely agree with Mr. Smith. We need to build more houses, but for that we can easily change one thing, and that is having less cows. We look at the Netherlands and see that we want to cram everything in a very small country, but we should have a European perspective. A European perspective that says Tata Steel, a large polluting steel-making industry, is better served in Spain, where we have solar energy, and in Sweden, where we have water energy that makes it more sustainable in production. The same is true for livestock farming. We shouldn't try to do all livestock farming in the Netherlands. We are the second biggest agricultural exporter in the world. And do you know how small we are? It's way more logical to say, let's do livestock farming in other places in Europe, in a place where these animals are not that crammed together, and then we emit less nitrogen, and we have the opportunity to build way more houses.
We'll have to leave it there. I'd like to thank both of my guests for this very polite Dutch disagreement, Reinier van Lanschot and Sander Schmidt. And of course, we will be closely following that Dutch election on October the 29th. Hope you can join us in our news programs on that day. Do stay with us here on France 24.